Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Embracing Wisdom with Stacie. That's me. Got a tough subject to talk about today, and I've been sort of hesitant to talk about it, but I think it's time. I think it's really time. So, I have been thinking about the idea of when we wear a monoscope or one of those single vision like binoculars, but it's a single vision. We have to close one of our eyes, put the monoscope on the open eye, and what we can see is only what is within that scope. And we miss everything else that's going around us. And I think that in our times, our way of communicating with other people, whether it's casually on a trail that we're walking, or dinner with our friends, or meeting around the water cooler at work, or having a lunch break with colleagues, we have a tendency to put that monoscope on and talk about what is wrong in the world. And what we are forgetting is that there is so much right in the world. And this has been a personal experience of mine that I have been stoically trying to practice over the last 2.5 years. That I have been intentional about not wearing a monoscope to look at only what is wrong in my world and truly see what is good in my world. And now, as I'm faced with another daunting challenge related to my physical body, I'm having to put the monoscope and push it further and further away because it's really easy to pick it up and only see the challenge. Now, what is important to remember is that there are times when investigating and researching and looking at only that challenge is really important. But if we walk around our lives only looking through this little tiny hole at what's wrong in our world, we miss all that is right in the world. I haven't given a hip update in a long time because life has been pretty much the same. I had my hip replacement in early 2024. A couple weeks after stopping antibiotics, I started to have a large amount of swelling. They went in April of 2024, cut the area open again, washed it out, put in some antibiotic beads, tested some of the tissue, and there was indeed a bacteria growing. So I spent 4 months with IV antibiotics, completed that cycle, and within 2 weeks of stopping the antibiotics, fluid built again. Went through the process again in 2024. That's 3 hip surgeries in 2024, only to have in early 2025, when the antibiotics were stopped, the fluid built back up. Because the tissue at the time of the last revision and all of the aspirations did not detect bacteria, they have felt pretty confident that the bacteria is gone and that's not the cause of the swelling. So I learned to put the monoscope down, to stop focusing on what was wrong with my hip and start realizing what is right in my world. And I just went about living my life. All of 2025, I went out of my way to find habits and hobbies that created joy in my life. I kept my business afloat. I eventually returned back to work part time, doing what I love doing. I became a cottage baker. I started to bake and sell a lot of the bread that I poured my soul into learning throughout my healing time. And now here we are in 2026, and my hip is no better than it was in 2025. In fact, it is worse. I have less mobility. I have way more pain, way more swelling, and I'm very limited. And so I've gone to the doctor a few times, expressed my concerns. And it's not that they don't listen, because they do listen, but they don't know what is the cause of my discomfort. And so I've just been putting my attention in my life and putting my focus on what is good in my world. Because if I honed in on what was not good in my world, it would probably break me, because I could see month after month my hip getting less mobility and more pain. I finally went to the original surgeon who installed the artificial hip last week, and we had a very honest conversation about the probability that persistent bacteria is still present, that even with culturing fluid from my hip, it is not detecting it. It's a very slow growing, sneaky little bacteria. And this is all while I'm facing a hip replacement on my right side. And so I found myself the last week or so grabbing the monoscope, trying to look at only what was wrong with my hip, trying to figure it out, trying to come up with a great plan. And in that process, I missed out on a lot of really beautiful things. And so I was reminded how easy it is to slip into what we don't have or what is challenging. And that doesn't mean that I'm dismissive or ignorant to the challenges that I face. Remedying a bacterial infection inside an artificial implanted joint is going to be horrific. I'm very well aware of that. But I have beauty right now today. I have joy right now today. I have a life right now despite pain, despite uncertainty. And I think where I'm at today is recognizing that when I get together with friends or family or people on the street, if my attention is solely on what is wrong in my world, which right now is my hip, then I am missing an opportunity to talk about what's right in my world and what's good in my world. And that becomes the resonance in which we live our life. If we have a resonance that is negative and down and hopeless, that is what we will attract. That is what we will show up as, what we will experience. But if our resonance is filled with hope and possibility and gratitude and zest and life and joy, then we will experience that. That doesn't mean my hip is going to be healed because I have a great attitude. It means that while I navigate this hip, I will be my best self. I will take the challenge as a challenge, not as a totality of my life. I won't allow myself to carry my monoscope and only look at what is wrong in my world. I will refuse to do that. And so people will ask me all the time when they hear about my hip, and I tell them that it's not good and that it has to be pulled out and I have to, the process in which removing an implanted joint is not a picnic. How do I do it? How do I do it? And the way that I do it is because I make a deliberate choice to not focus on what is wrong in my world. I acknowledge what's wrong in my world, and then I pay great attention to what is right in the world. And I was just teaching a class for an online group for people living with dementia. And we were talking about this concept that imagine if each one of us in this group chose to put the monoscope down and not solely look at the challenge in our life, dementia, hips, whatever your challenge is, and really start to look at the good in our life and pay attention to what is good, have a different perspective about what is good. What if we really were intentional about that? And we decided as a collective group that we would not only influence each other, we would influence the people around us. Then the people around us would be influenced by our action, and they would then begin to influence people around their life. And just like a sunflower starts with one tiny little seed, that if that seed of intentionally looking at the good in our world could make a huge blossom filled with thousands of seeds that could feed many critters and people. Imagine if we put the monoscope down and started to pay attention to what is right in our world and be grateful for what is right in our world, how that might influence the outcome of what is not right in our world. So when people say, I don't know how you do it, you have such a great attitude, you're such an inspiration, I appreciate that. I appreciate the acknowledgement. It does not mean that I don't struggle. It doesn't mean that I want to hold that monoscope and just look at what's wrong in my world. It means that I am being deliberate and choosing that despite the challenge that I'm facing, and despite the last 10 years of recovering from hip surgeries and trying to navigate a business and navigate a life and still find joy and still show up, I'm choosing to do that by seeing the bigger picture. I'm choosing to not let the hip, plural, hips, become my identity and what I'm known for. I want to be known for being a giver of goodness, for being light, or despite challenges, living my best life. That's what I want to be known for, not the lady with bad hips or the bad attitude. So, as you go about your day, I want you to think about, are you walking around with a monoscope? Whether your monoscope is looking at the politics in this country, or your monoscope is only looking at your neighbor's yard that he never takes care of, or you're looking at, your estranged family member and that's all you're seeing, or you're looking at whatever it is that you are honing in on. If that is the only thing that you are paying attention to, you are missing all that is good. It doesn't mean that that thing doesn't exist, because it does and it's painful. But honing in on it is only going to make it more painful. By taking the monoscope and setting it aside and recognizing that you have all of this goodness around you, that's where your attention goes. That's where your resonance goes. That's what you then experience more of. Something to think about. So that's my words of wisdom for today, and that is an update on my hip. My next steps with my hip, I will see a specialist in September. We will get a game plan together for my left hip, determine if it is worth opening me up, cleaning it out, culturing tissue before my hip replacement on the right side, or waiting until after my hip replacement. That's the question that we're looking at. Either way, right hip is getting replaced in October, and the left hip is still on its journey. That's all I got for you. Have a beautiful rest of your day. And I got more to say on this, so keep listening. Bye.